Good morning, everybody. It is 11:01 Eastern Time here on Sunday, May 4th. I know it's like Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. I've got Matt Bell here. We're going to talk some MLB for these early games and tonight's slate. Bell, how you doing?
Oh, doing pretty good. Getting ready for some baseball here on Sunday.
Yeah, same here. And hopefully, I had to embed the link today, and I'm not sure if I did it right. So if somebody could let us know if it refreshed or not. I tried doing it. It doesn't look like it did. Before we get going here, I want to make sure everybody can actually see us. I don't think it refreshed. Let me get the link. I'll just post the link anyway. Bear with us just a minute here, guys. Okay, all right. I just posted the link there. I'll keep posting it throughout. My apologies. I must have messed something up when I tried to do it. Chris normally does it, and I haven't done it in a while, and must have messed it up there. But anyway, let's get to these games, Bell. Full slate of games. Doesn't look like there's any weather concerns. Is that correct?
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's nice. It looks okay outside my window in Pittsburgh. I'm actually going to try to jolt to the Pirates game right after we get off the air here. But the first game we want to talk about isn't in Pittsburgh. It's the White Sox and the Indians. Andre Rienzo versus Corey Kluber. Give me some of your thoughts on this game, Bill.
I don't really like either one of the pitchers. Kluber could be a sneaky one, but I'm not going to be playing him today. The White Sox do strike out a ton, but they also do put up a ton of runs, so I'm going to stay away from him. I think you could look at a guy like Abreu, who's just a monster at the plate. Lexi Ramirez. Those are some of the guys that are in play for the White Sox. And then on the other side, you got the Indians. I don't really have any other hitters that I'm going to target heavily today. I was looking at maybe Gomes, but it looks like he's not even in the lineup. And I believe Brantley got hurt yesterday, so he's out of play for me. But then they also did call up Morgan. He's leading off, so he could make for a decent value play today.
Yeah, I saw he got recalled there from AAA. Yeah, I looked at this game just because neither one of the pitchers kind of like jump out at me. Kluber has a lot of strikeout potential and had that really, really nice start out a couple times. It was either his last start or two starts ago. He had that complete game, 11 Ks. So that was great to see. But there's so much other value, both on the mound and from hitters today, that it's really difficult for me to kind of want to target really anybody in this game because I want to pay up for guys in other places that will especially get to. I think maybe if you are going to target this game a little bit, you maybe go with a guy like Brantley, who's been swinging it well. Santana didn't have a good day yesterday, but he's been better of late. And yeah, maybe a guy like Tony Plush, Nyjer Morgan, that is super cheap, if he's even available in player pools right now, that gets the lead off, and he's probably going to be like minimum price. I won't be on Kluber because I like some of the other options, but I think he could be a sneaky GPP play. I'm not going to be rolling him out in cash games. Would you say the same thing?
I actually messed that up. I said Brantley got hurt yesterday. I was wrong. It was Bourne that got hurt. So
Yeah, Bourne.
Brantley is in the lineup, and he would be a decent option.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Those are my thoughts on this game. We don't really have to spend too much time on it. There's not a whole lot that I want to dive into here because of the other games. And the next game on this list is a game that definitely has the potential for a lot of daily fantasy value. Eric Bedard and CC Sabathia at Yankee Stadium, a pair of lefties going in the Rays and Yankees game. I'm assuming you're going to like hitters in this game, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've got a couple of guys I'm probably going to target out of this one. If you're a BVP guy, you've got Evan Longoria, who just flat out owns CC. Another guy that I'm looking at for pretty cheap hitting in the fifth hole today is Sean Rodriguez, who's got some nice BVP against him. He's hitting the ball pretty well right now. And then on the other side, I think you can find a lot of value in the Yankees lineup today. It hadn't come out right before we went live, but a guy I really like would be Soriano, who just mashes lefties. Brian McCann, I mean, even though it's a lefty, he is 4 of 6 off of this guy, and Bedard is nothing special. So I think he's an option at catcher today if you want to pay up.
Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of these Rays right-handed bats, especially Longoria, and yeah, he's owned CC in the past, but that's not even the only reason I'm looking at him. He just hits lefties well in general. Plus, they're playing at Yankee Stadium, which is obviously a hitter's park. I don't know if you saw Will Myers' home run yesterday, but he hit that ball and he kind of looked like it was nothing. Just kind of looked like he just stuck his bat out there and he wasn't even really sure, and then he looked up and it was gone. It's 314 down the right field line. All it takes is one of those little, one of those little fly balls there, and it gets out of there. So there's definitely a lot of run scoring potential in this game. It's got one of the higher over-unders. I don't like either of the pitchers. I definitely wouldn't be using either of them, but I think there's value to be had. You mentioned Soriano. Maybe even if you shortstop's a position that is typically really difficult. If you're really stretching, I don't know. I actually didn't see the Yankees lineup. Is Jeter in the lineup?
It hasn't updated yet here. I've been trying to see if I could get it, but I haven't seen it come out yet. So
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, even a guy like him, he's not going to hit you a home run or anything, but he should give you some decent at bats, hopefully, against a soft tossing lefty. He's obviously not like my number one or number two option as a shortstop, but he's a guy you could consider because I think there are going to be runs scored in this game. Ellsbury's been red hot. Another 3-hit day yesterday for him. That's a guy to consider. Teixeira as a switch hitter, I like him better from the left side. He hit a homer yesterday, but I think there's all sorts of guys you can consider in this game, and I really like Longoria. I'm assuming Forsythe. Pretty sure that lineup just came out here, the Rays lineup.
He's leading off.
Oh, Forsythe's leading off. Yeah, he should be. He hasn't been very good, and I've used him against certain lefties, and he hasn't really done much. But he's a guy you can definitely plug in there at an extreme value. Sean Rodriguez hitting fifth. At second base. He's probably second, short, third eligible, depending on the site, maybe even outfield. Brandon Guyer, he was a Cubs prospect, a guy that's going to play left field today that provides you a lot of value, right-handed stick. Looks like they loaded up with, 8 of the 9 guys there are right-handed, James Loney being the only left-handed guy against CC. So I think there's definitely guys there that you need to consider, especially if you're not going to be able to completely load that Colorado Mets game as it is, especially, to find some value and salary relief. I think some of those guys are guys you need to consider before you, submit any lineups there. Let's move on to the next one if I can find my tab. Here we go. Yeah, it's Stephen Fife, or Stephen Fife, I'm not sure how you'd say it, versus Jose Fernandez in Miami. Are you going to be rolling out Jose Fernandez?
I think you have to. I mean, he's been dominant at home, and even though it is the Dodgers who hit right-handed pitchers pretty well, Jose still may be the best pitcher in baseball at home right now, and the Dodgers do strike out third most. So he's definitely a guy that I'm probably going to pay up for in situations today because even I don't see him giving up even more than 2 runs if he does give up any to the Dodgers. So, I mean, yeah, I'm rolling him out. And then on the other side, I think you can find some value in that Marlins lineup. I really like Stanton today against Stephen Fife in his first start. And then I think Christian Yelich's in play a ton today. He's a very safe cash game play.
Yeah, I mean, I always talk about Yelich. I love him against right-handed hitters. And he actually, I called his home run the other day against Harang. You're not going to see a ton of those, but he's awesome. He's one of my favorite players. So I like him. And Giancarlo Stanton is really always in play, especially on a day like today. I do think you have to pay up for Jose Fernandez, especially on one-pitcher sites and cash games because of just what this guy is. I know a lot of people might kind of back off him because there are other aces on the mound today, and he is pitching against the Dodgers lineup, which is a pretty good lineup. But he's just been incredible, absolutely incredible. Well, I think 27 2/3 at home, and he's given up 1 earned run or something like that. He's unreal. I mean, there's not much for me to say. He's absolutely unreal. He's striking out 11 guys per 9. Everything there points to using him. So If somebody has a reason here in chat that they might not be rostering him outside of Price today, then throw it out there, and we can discuss that as we get going today. But I can't see not using him. I really can't. He's too good, man. But let's move on to another stud young right-hander, Sonny Gray and John Lackey in Boston. Sonny Gray, complete game shutout against the Rangers in his last start. Are you going to be using him against Boston?
Yeah, I like Sonny Gray. He's probably my second favorite pitcher today. I like the fact that Boston's never faced him before, so this will be their first time seeing him. So he should be able to do work to that lineup. I mean, he's got a 1.76 ERA. He's got an 8.12 K through 9, so he's got a low whip and everything. So I think he should be just fine today against Boston. Napoli's out of the lineup, so that should help him just a little bit. And most of the other Boston hitters have struggled a little bit.
Yeah, I like Sonny Gray. I don't know if I'm going to be using him today. It's just tough because I like Jose Fernandez so much. I don't think he's a bad play, but I think he's almost more of a GPP play just because of the Red Sox potential to score runs. It is still a good lineup, and it's gotten better since they've gotten Middlebrooks and Victorino back. But Gray definitely has the potential to shut down those good lineups. He shut down Texas, and that was a complete game shutout at Texas, at Hitters Park, where he thought a lot of guys kind of maybe stayed off him for the same exact reasons, facing a good lineup in a good Hitters Park. Are you going to be targeting guys like Brandon Moss and maybe John Jaso as a nice catcher option against John Lackey today?
I like Jaso a little bit. Just I don't like him as much now that the lineup's come out. I was hoping he'd be hitting that 2-hole again, but he's not. He's down there. He's DH and batting about 6th, so I'll probably be off of him a little bit. But I think guys like Donaldson and Brandon Moss are still in play for you today against Lackey. He's nothing that scares me away, really.
Yeah, I like Brandon Moss. I'm not going to be on Lackey, but he seems to always throw well. It's annoying. He's a guy that I kind of sometimes want to be able to pick on because I don't really have any. I don't really like John Lackey as a pitcher. He's a guy that I want to be able to pick on. And we've talked about his up and down trials at home in Fenway Park. One year he was terrible. The next year he was really good. This year he's been pretty decent there. So there's been times that I've wanted to pick on him, and he just seems to always, not really, really excel, but never give up enough damage to really warrant picking a bunch of guys against him. I think Jed Lowry's maybe an option at shortstop if you're not going to pay up for Tulo. I think Tulo's the guy that most people are going to try to be targeting because of that game today. And shortstop's real difficult. Let's move on to what should be another nice pitching matchup, though. It's Bumgarner and Wood. Over/under was 7 last time I looked. It should be probably around there the whole time. Giants lineup just came out not too long ago. Do you like the pitchers here? Are there hitters you want to use? What are you thinking?
I actually like both the pitchers here. The only hitter that is in play for me in this game is Justin Upton. He's 9 of 20 off of Bumgarner, and he's been really hot lately, so I could see him, hitting a bomb off of him today. But other than that, I actually like both these pitchers today. The Giants are only hitting 229 on the road. And Alex Wood, he's been pretty good, 1.38 ERA at home. He's a lefty, so if he can get through like Posey and maybe Pagan and some of those others, I don't see anybody else in the Giants lineup that could do some damage to him. And then Madison Bumgarner, I think he could have a solid day as well. He's had some rough starts so far this year, but the Braves, as hot as Justin Upton's been, if you look, they have the second least amount of runs scored in Major League Baseball so far, so I think he could be in play as well today.
Yeah, I'm not on a ton of hitters in this game. I think Posey's obviously always in play against a left-handed pitcher, so that's one thing, especially a catcher, where it's tough. The discrepancies in the player pool are so large. A catcher, you're either kind of punting or you're paying up. So Posey would be a guy that maybe you could pay up for. Not my favorite matchup, though. I think there's better options today. But against a lefty, he's always a guy that you can consider. I like both pitchers in this game just because, first of all, it's not going to be a high-scoring game, and both guys have some pretty decent K potential. Bumgarner's striking out like 9.5 guys per 9. Alex Wood's like 8.8 Ks per 9. And I don't see a whole lot of firepower in either of these offenses against these guys today. I don't think this has the makings of that Alex Wood, Jose Fernandez game at Turner Field. I don't think you'll maybe see that many strikeouts back and forth, but I think it presents you the same type of game opportunity where it's going to be low scoring. There's going to be a bunch of Ks, and not much is going to happen offensively. My favorite Braves to use is Freddie Freeman, and that kind of gets neutralized a little bit from Bumgarner today. Some of those, you mentioned Justin Upton as just about the only guy you could maybe consider, and I agree there. I like what Hayward's been doing, but again, Bumgarner neutralizes him a little bit, and I don't feel safe, rostering obviously B.J. Upton or Dan Uggla or Gaddis or even Andrelton Simmons never strikes out, like ever strikes out. So he's a guy that you could use at maybe like a place that penalizes you for strikeouts. Like Draft Street, he's pretty safe there because he doesn't really ever strike out, and he's cheap. So that's a shortstop kind of like punt play. But outside of that, I don't want to touch hitters in this game. I think the only thing here is these two pitchers are both kind of middle price, middle tier, outside of Jose and what Verlander's going to be today. I think you could maybe roster one of these guys. I'm not sure if I have a favorite. I think it kind of depends on the price on the site, which guy I like more. Just like picking between the two, I'd say Bumgarner, but it depends. It depends on price and site for me. Okay, let's get to this next one though. This is the one that I might try to get to here. The McGowan and Volquez, two kind of mediocre right-handed pitchers at PNC Park. You think you might be using hitters in this game, Bill?
Yeah, actually, Andrew McCutchen in this game, he's probably my favorite hitter today of anybody. I'm probably going to try to roll him out in just about every lineup. He's been pretty hot lately, batting .444 over his last 10 games. He's hitting above 300 against right-handers and at home, and he's facing a very average right-hander. So I think I'm going to roll him out. I think Pedro Alvarez is in play. He just mashes right-handers, but again, you got to be careful with Pedro because he does strike out a lot. Josh Harrison leading off, Neil Walker, I think those are both decent plays as well. And then on the other side, you got Toronto. Jose Reyes is 5 of 6 off of him, but he's not doing much. So if you are a firm believer in BVP like some people are, then you could roll him out today. But other than that, I think, the big bats, Encarnacion and Batista on that side, they could be in play. But Volquez has been decent, so I'd be careful with the Toronto bats.
Yeah, I think maybe the Toronto bats that outside of Melky and Batista and Reyes to consider to be a guy like Juan Francisco that crushes right-handed pitching. Hit a homer not too long ago, and it's definitely in play today. It looks pretty nice out. I'm looking out my window. Blue skies, a couple clouds, but the ball should fly pretty decently. We did mention it's a slight pitcher's park, so that's something to consider. But those guys are potential, especially a guy like Juan Francisco, is a potential like sneaky plug-and-play option if you're trying to find some salary relief places. I think something I will do just because it's fun to do that when you go to the games is I might just throw a Bucko stack out there against McGowan. McGowan's not good, and I know the Pirates lineup is not producing at all really. They scored 8 runs last night, which is nice against Dickey, but there wasn't a whole lot of DFS value in the game because I don't think anybody homered. But I do like guys like Neil Walker today. I've been mentioning he's been swinging the bat well all year long. Pedro Alvarez, maybe it's time for another home run from that guy. Maybe even Ike Davis gets on the board. So I think I might, just for going to the game, getting a chance to kind of sit there, and I'm going to be rooting for the Bucks anyway since the Cubs are on Sunday Night Baseball. I think it might be fun just to roll out a Bucko stack, and I don't actually think it's a terrible option today against McGowan. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out for me. I'd like to hopefully after this get a ticket and run over there. It's only about 10 minutes for me to get to PNC Park, so that's pretty cool. How about this is a game that Chris K would love to talk about. It's Verlander and Jason Vargas at Kauffman Stadium. The Tigers put up 9 runs yesterday. They saw Danny Duffy and a bunch of relievers. Miggy had a couple hits. Kinsler had a couple hits. Torrey Hunter hit a 3-run homer. Do you believe in those guys again against Vargas?
Yeah, I think Miggy's in play for sure. Kinsler is as well. Vargas has been decent, but again, Miggy and Kinsler aren't just your average hitters, so I would lean more towards taking them guys rather than I would, betting on Vargas to have a solid game. Um, I'm probably not going to be real heavy on Miggy and them today just because I like some other options, but, I mean, he is always in play, and he has started hitting a little bit better than he was at the beginning of the year. And then I think it's worth mentioning, I believe on opening day this year, Verlander faced the Royals as well, and a guy that really had a lot of success against him was Salvador Perez. So he's a guy that I'll be looking at just a little bit at catcher today as long as he's back in the lineup, and I believe he is.
Yes, Perez has good numbers against Verlander. The other guy that maybe if you're not targeting Verlander, I like Verlander in this game. If you're not targeting Verlander, Eric Hosmer's been swinging the bat a lot better. He hasn't hit a home run yet, which is disappointing. But the Royals as a team have been super bad power-wise. But Hosmer hits a ton of doubles. He's a pretty good left-handed bat that just hits a ton of line drives. That doesn't really always translate in DFS, but as a baseball player, just getting to watch him and watch his swings and the balls off his bat, he hits so many line drives. It's awesome. It just doesn't result in a ton of home runs. But I like the Tigers bats against Vargas. I think Kinsler's in play. I mean Miggy's in play. I'm not super big on Rajat Davis. I know he's been leading off there, but he doesn't do a whole lot for me. I know the stolen base potential, but I don't know. I can't jump on the Chris K. Rajat Davis play a whole lot. Torrey Hunter maybe, Austin Jackson. Those are guys that you can consider, but they're definitely not my favorites. I like Kinsler and Miggy the best out of anybody in this lineup, and maybe Castellanos as a really really cheap kind of GPP play.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Rajah Davis a little bit more than you do, though. It is a lefty on the mound today, so I think he's a little bit more in play than if it would be a right-hander on the mound.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. He's not a guy that I typically use. It definitely depends on the site. If you're playing at a site like Draft Day, where stolen bases are only as much as a single, then I don't even think it's worth rostering a guy like Rajah Davis at all. You roster him because of his potential to steal bases and get on and score runs there. And on a site where a stolen base is as good as a single, it's just not worth it. Now, where like on DraftKings or something where a stolen base is worth a double, then I think it definitely becomes a better play. But not at sites where the stolen base isn't anywhere near as valuable. How about this next game, Baltimore and Minnesota? Minnesota is their rotation's gross, man. They throw out all these bum right-handed guys. Are you going to be using Baltimore bats against Phil Hughes?
I think I'm going to start Phil Hughes.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. No, he's pretty awful. He's a gas can, like Greg would always say. A guy I think I'm going to target today to get going is going to be Machado. As long as he's in the lineup. He's 5 of 10 off of Phil Hughes, and I think he gets it going today. It's just a kind of a gut feeling, so nobody roll him out there. It's something I'm guaranteeing, like the Ortiz bomb. But I do like Markakis and Machado today a lot in that Orioles lineup.
Yeah, it's crazy, Bill. I've been kind of following these Twins right-handed pitchers a little closely, and a lot of times we look for the platoon splits and we look for lefties against marginal righties and stuff like that. All three of these last starters for Minnesota, Correa, Pelfrey, and Hughes, all three of them are guys that have reverse platoon splits and pretty drastic ones. I know I targeted a lot of those Dodgers righties against Pelfrey, and Pelfrey was awful. Puig was like 4 for 4. That was an awesome, that was a good day for righties. Correa didn't actually pitch that bad yesterday, so that was kind of disappointing. I did use Adam Jones, who had a pretty decent day, stolen base, a run, and a single. Nelson Cruz was okay. J.J. Hardy was pretty good. But another guy today, Phil Hughes, righties are hitting 367 against him. Lefties are hitting 204, and it's because of that cutter. I think if you're going to target Phil Hughes today, you have to definitely target those right-handed guys like we've been targeting all series long. I do still kind of like Wieters. just because catcher's thin. But guys we've been targeting this last series have been Nelson Cruz, Adam Jones, Machado's back now. Those are the guys that are still in play. J.J. Hardy's still in play as shortstop. I don't really ever go out of my way to play Nick Markakis. I know he homered the other night against Pittsburgh. He doesn't do enough for me. As safe as he is, kind of as like a cash game guy, because he's going to go up there and give you good at bats, and he's probably going to get 4 at bats and get on base once or twice. As safe as he is as a cash game guy, I just hardly ever use him. So he won't be a guy I'm targeting today. Will you be using Joe Mauer hit a homer yesterday, which is something that we should celebrate and talk about. Will you be using Joe Mauer? Is he in the lineup today? I would assume so.
I like Mauer, and a guy that, just to brag a little bit, if you look at my little name tag down there, I did beat Chris K again yesterday thanks to Brian Dozier. So that's another guy you can look at. Miguel Gonzalez, I believe, is starting for the Orioles, and he's giving up. Right-handers are hitting 356 against him, so that definitely puts Dozier in play again today for me. So I like him, and then Jason Kubel is another guy that I think you could look at.
Yeah, the Twins lineup. You read down through that lineup. Trevor Plouffe's a guy that's really underrated. He's been really good. I think he leads the American League in doubles. He only has 1 home run, which is kind of disappointing, but he does play at target field. He's a guy that is underrated, and so is Dozier, and they play in a small market, so that's why they don't get a lot of exposure. So that top 3 from the Twins are the guys that I would maybe think about, and maybe Kubel. Colabello just really hasn't done really much of anything recently. Kurt Suzuki's disgusting. I think it's gross that he's hitting 6 in a major league lineup, but I'll let that go. I know Chris K has talked about him a little bit as a cheap option, but you'll never find Kurt Suzuki in my lineup as long as I shall live. Regardless, I don't care if the guy's like 8 for his last 8 with 8 home runs. I'm probably still not rostering Kurt Suzuki. Let's move to the next one, though. This is one that's an interesting game to talk about because of what these guys have done here. Colin McHugh and Brandon Maurer. Colin McHugh has been awesome, and he's only had 2 starts. Are you going to test him against the Mariners, who finally actually kind of like exploded for runs yesterday?
Man, I don't know. Probably not, especially on sites where his price has gone up. I'm trying to think. On FanDuel, he's like 4,700, which is bottom dollar for a pitcher. So I think he's probably in play there. But on other sites, I play on Fantasy Aces, and you can actually get like Sonny Gray is cheaper. So I think you're crazy to roll out McHugh, but what do I know? I've not been winning much lately, except for against Chris K. So, I can't argue with it, though. 15 in the third innings pitched, giving up 5 hits, only 1 earned run, walked 3 batters, and struck out 19. Those numbers are hard to argue with. So, he's in play, I guess. Seattle's hitting 219 on the road. I don't think I could argue with anybody that wanted to roll him out there today. But I do, on the other side, I think there's a lot of value in that Astros lineup today.
Yeah, McHugh, man. He's like $20,000 on Draft Street, which is like just below Jose Fernandez. There's no way I am rostering this guy today. Yeah, it's been weird. The Astros pitching staff, how they've been. Keuchel's been pretty good. He wasn't super great yesterday, and he walked the bases loaded in the 7th, and then the Mariners kind of pounced on it. But this is a team that we always try to target these pitchers, and they've kind of backfired. And McHugh is a guy that I know I tried to target when he pitched against Seattle at Safeco, and he was dominant. So it's something to consider. I can't roster him. I saw a tweet from one of the Fantasy Insider guys today that talked about his fly ball percentage. So I looked into it a little bit more. In 2013, he didn't pitch in the big leagues in 2013, but in the minors in 2013, his home run per 9. Wait, no, maybe he did pitch in the bigs. I'm trying to decipher these statistics here. In 2013, his home run per 9 was 2.08. And his ground ball percentage was 39.8%. That percentage has gone down to 29% ground balls, which means a lot of fly balls, and he's pitching in Houston today. So yeah, I don't I don't love Seattle offensively because they don't have a whole lot outside of Robinson Cano, but I do like them a lot more against right-handed pitchers. Because then you get the platoon splits for Seager, and Smoke gets a hit from the left side, and Saunders at the top of that order, and Brad Miller. All those guys, they're not kind of neutralized by the lefty, so I do like them more. And I think they might be a sneaky stack. I actually stacked them yesterday in a $2 GPP and ended up finishing pretty highly. I think they're a sneaky stack option for GPPs only. Obviously, I won't be rostering a lot of Mariners in cash games, but talk to me about these Astros guy you like.
I like Castro a lot today, lefty versus righty. He's probably my favorite catcher option today, especially on a site maybe where he's not as expensive as some of the other guys. But I also like Jose Altuve. There's a lot of value in there. I had it pulled up here. Fowler's hitting second. Dominguez is batting cleanup now for him. I think all four of those guys could be sneaky plays today. I expect them to put up quite a bit of runs on Brandon Maurer.
Yeah, and Mauer's another guy who gives up a lot of fly balls, gives up a lot of home runs. And I love Jason Castro. It's a guy I wrote about this morning. I really like Jason Castro a lot. And I think you can find, some value in this lineup. Dexter Fowler hasn't been doing a whole lot of anything really. Nothing that's like jumping off the page at you. But I do like him. Altuve is always pretty solid. And even a guy like VR, he's been pretty good. I just don't like that he hits down near the bottom of that order. But I think you can see a lot of runs in this game today. The hard part is going to be picking the right guys offensively. But I think Castro is my favorite hitter in this game, followed by probably Robinson Cano, and then a hodgepodge. I'll say that again, a mix and match of guys that you're just going to have to kind of try to pick out and hope that something happens there. I know Smoke homered yesterday, so there is some potential in this game. Seager just won Player of the Week a week or two ago. There is potential here for a lot of runs, and guys you need to consider that you could plug and play somewhere. We'll get to the Coors Field game here in a little bit, and that's obviously where a lot of attention is going to be focused. But don't sleep on the Houston-Seattle game. Are you going to be using Gio Gonzalez against the Phillies? This is the next game we have here. Citizens Bank Park, Gio Gonzalez against formerly Fausto Carmona, Roberto Hernandez. What do you think, Bill?
The Phillies lineup's loaded with left-handers. I like Gio. He's got a high K rate. But when I was looking at the stats, the Phillies are actually hitting .299 against lefties, so that scared me a little bit off of him with all the other options today. But Gio's not just your typical left-hander. He is a pretty good pitcher. So I think he's in play today against the Phillies.
Yeah, man, it's just so difficult for me to use Gio, especially with those other arms on the mound. But I think he is an option. I think he's more of a GPP option, too. I don't think he's a cash game play for me today. Because of his strikeout potential, there's always that chance that he goes out there, and especially the Phillies' bats are primarily left-handed. They're better bats anyway. So I do like him, but not enough to roster in my cash games. I don't feel safe enough throwing him in my cash games when there's guys like Jose Fernandez on the mound and Verlander and other guys like that have better matchups. Man, I wish I could use more hitters, and I'd like to be able to use guys. Roberto Hernandez hasn't been too bad. I'd like to be able to use some guys, but I just can't. Without Bryce Harper in that lineup, I can't pull the trigger on Adam LaRoche a whole lot. I don't know what to do offensively in this game. Is there anybody here offensively that you like?
I like Jason Worth a little bit against Roberto Hernandez as long as he's in the lineup. I think that's the only hitter I would target in that game, though.
Yeah, that lineup's not out yet. I have the Phillies lineup here. Revere, Rollins, Utley, Bird, Howard, Ruiz, Mayberry, Nix, and then Hernandez. So they did try to get a bunch of those right-handed hitters in there, but those right-handed hitters aren't good right-handed hitters. Mayberry, Nix, Hernandez. Hernandez is the pitcher, so that doesn't even matter. It's just it's not a strong lineup. It really isn't. So it doesn't bother me to use a guy like Gio Gonzalez, but I do think he's GPP. I don't think I will be using him in cash games. Let me pull up this next game here. Yu Darvish at Angel Stadium against Tyler Skaggs. will you be rolling you, who has been torched in his career by Mike Trout?
No, I don't think I'm going to, just simply for the fact that Jose is on the mound, and I would rather pay up for Jose at home than going with you, and they're about the same price on most sites. So I will not be using him. I think he's in play, but he has been struggling, and like you said, Mike Trout's owned him, so he's got to get if he gets through Trout, he'll be okay. But just when you're paying that high price tag, you want to see a lot of production out of him, and I think that comes from Jose rather than you today.
Yeah, Yu Darvish has still been excellent this year. His K rate's been down a little bit. It was 11.89 last year, and that's for the whole season. It's only at 9.48 right now, but his walk rate is down. His homers per nine are down. The one thing that's up is his batting average on balls in play, which, I mean, I don't really know how much I want to look into that statistic there. I do think Yu is still a solid option. He's not my favorite because Jose Fernandez is on the mound, obviously, but I think he's a guy that is going to be kind of overlooked because of the power of the Angels lineup. But I still like him. I can't warrant paying for him over Jose Fernandez unless you're doing a GPP. Like if you're trying to just put together GPP lineups and a lot of people are going to be on Jose Fernandez, maybe use guys like Gio and Yu Darvish to diversify and to still give your chance to make up that huge difference. So if something happens today where Jose Fernandez goes out there and puts up a King Felix against the Astros that first start, where people are using him and then he isn't good, and you use Yu Darvish, and Yu Darvish is what Yu Darvish is capable of being, or Gio Gonzalez or Verlander, what those guys are capable of being, and you use them, I think it's a solid GPP strategy. Now, I wouldn't completely take yourself off of Jose Fernandez because he gets, I'm hoping he's still awesome, and I wouldn't want to have, a bunch of rosters without him for that sake, because I think he will be highly owned, even though he's facing the Dodgers. But I don't think I'm going to stray too far off of Yu Darvish, that is, not you. But the price, if he's the same price as Jose for cash games, I think I'll be on Jose. How about, do you want to take a guy like Adrian Beltre, a guy like Alex Rios against Skaggs?
I like Rios quite a bit today. He's been pretty hot. Beltre would be a nice GPP play. He's not hitting the ball well, but he does crush left-handers in his career. So, I mean, he's in play. It's more of a GPP type style because I don't think a lot of guys will be on him. But I do like Rios quite a bit, who's just been mashing left-handers, and Skaggs is pretty much average.
Yeah, I'm not on Skaggs at all. I do think Beltre, Rios, and Andrus are the guys that I maybe consider in this lineup, like as a small mini stack, but I just, there's a couple games from now we're going to get to that everybody's going to have everybody in. So I don't want to miss on too many roster spots in these other games unless they're GPP games. Okay, so what's this next game here? The Reds and the Brewers. Kyle Loesch against Alfredo Simon. The trend has been use righties against Brewers. Cueto was awesome last night, as expected. Most right-handed guys we've been rolling out against the Brewers have been pretty good. Are you going to roll out Alfredo Simon against the Brewers?
No, I'm not, but I wouldn't argue with anybody that was going to. I mean, he's been really solid so far to start the year, and without Braun in the lineup, they do take a hit. But I mean, Simon, I keep waiting. He's going to get blown. He's going to blow up at some point, I feel like. So I'm going to stay away from him.
I feel the same way. I just can't he hasn't pitched in the starter role since 2011, I believe. I'm just, as his innings start to rack up a little bit here, I think you could, like you said, he's going to get blown up one of these days. I don't know if it's today, because even though I don't like, I don't want to use Simon, I don't think the Brewers' offense, all those righties without Ryan Braun, are enough to really to do the toll today, to kind of punch Simon in the gut with everything they've got. Carlos Gomez is good. I don't like using Lucroy against anybody that's not a lefty. Scooter Gennett is a guy that you could potentially use at the top of that order. I think, did Segura homer last night? No, I don't think so. I lied. Segura maybe. I just like there's nobody in this lineup that I want to use if Ryan Braun's not in it. How about Reds against Kyle Loesch though?
No, there again, maybe Joey Votto and Bruce, but Loesch has been pitching like out of his mind as well lately. But I think Votto was 0 for 5 last night. You're not going to get that from him very often. But I also don't like paying up against a guy like Loesch right now who's just pitching like crazy out of his mind. So, and I also saw somewhere today that without Billy Hamilton in the lineup, Votto doesn't feel like he has as much protection. He's not getting the pitches because teams aren't afraid to go after him with Brandon Phillips behind him, who's not doing anything. So I can't really explain that, but that is something also that makes me not want to pay up for a guy like Votto today.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's afraid of going after Brandon Phillips. So the thought there is that they can nibble and be okay kind of pitching the way they want to pitch to Votto instead of coming after him. And if they do happen to lose him and he gets on base via the walk, they're not afraid to pitch to Brandon Phillips because he's been garbage. And I don't really like that lineup construction with Phillips hitting third. I know they don't really have much outside of really Votto and Bruce to break up that the left-handed bats there. Those are the only two left-handed hitters aside from Hamilton, who's a switch hitter, in that lineup. So it's tough. It's got to be tough to use. But anyway, I don't think I can pay for guys against Loesch. Like I said, he's one of the most underrated pitchers in the big leagues. Goes out there, competes every single time he takes the ball. The only guys I would consider, are Votto and Bruce, but there's too much out there today for me to want to try to pick on Loesch. So this is a game that I'm probably spitting on completely and just kind of pushing off to the side so we can get to some of these other games here. Wade Miley, Tyson Ross at Petco Park. This is an interesting game for me. I think I like both Miley and Ross as potential mid to lower tier pitching options. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you on both of them. I actually like both those pitchers, especially if you're going to play on a site that does the late slate only. I think both those pitchers are in play. I could easily see that game being like 1-0, 2-0, something like that. Because Wade Miley is a left-hander, and the Padres are absolutely awful against left-handers, no matter if it's on the road or at home. And even at home in that pitcher's park, that's probably going to make it even worse for their hitters. They don't really have anybody that's hitting the ball. And then Tyson Ross has been pretty dominant at home too. And the Diamondbacks lineup's not really anything that scares me right now, maybe outside of Goldschmidt, who's not really been that hot either.
Yeah, I think the guy that I'm just going to mention like two hitters here that I would maybe target in this game if you don't want these pitchers. And I think they would be, for me, Miguel Montero, who has actually been good and homered last night. And the other guy for me to think about would be Everth Cabrera, who has good numbers against Miley. And I just like him at shortstop to lead off that order. He's a guy his price never really kind of jumps up there enough to keep you off of him. Those are the two hitters I will mention. Goldschmidt, obviously, there's nothing for me to say about that. I don't see scoring in this game. I don't see scoring at all. And I know the Diamondbacks are last in the league in run differential. Even though they play in Chase Field, there's nothing there. Like these lineups, I look at all these major league lineups, and there are lineups that jump out to me, and they're like, man, 1 through 7 are really solid, and then there's lineups like the Diamondbacks, and there's lineups like the Padres that you just kind of look at, and you can pick and poke out one or two guys that are solid major league players, and the other guys you kind of feel like they're just thrown in there. And really have no business being in the lineup. And that's kind of how I feel about both of these lineups here today. Outside of guys like Goldschmidt and Prado and Miguel Montero, and on the other side like Headley and Cabrera. But I don't like the offenses. I like both pitchers, and especially in the short late slates, I think you have to consider both these guys. If you're playing at a site like Draft Street, where there's 3 pitcher sites, I think Ross or Miley, whichever one that you prefer to use, I think one of those guys has to be in your lineup. And I think either one of them is maybe an okay 2-pitcher site option as well. Although I think you can still kind of, it depends on the game you're playing. You can still kind of pay up for Jose and then maybe get another guy in there. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing outside of these pitchers in this game for me. Okay. Can you mute yourself there, or were you not saying something? Sorry.
No, I was trying to unmute so I could say something, and I had like 14 things pulled up here. So yeah, but yeah, I agree with just about everything you said. The pitchers are what you got to look at in that game.
Yeah. Okay. The next game's the game that everybody wants to talk about anyway. I think the over under was like 11 or 11 and a half. Unreal. Dylan G, Jali Sassin at Coors Field. Man, like, how do you not just load up your lineup with all these guys?
I don't know, but it's almost becoming ridiculous. I wish some sites would just like price the Rockies, like make them all higher than Mike Trout, because it's almost to a point to where you have to just play them, and it's taking almost the fun out of it to an extent for me. So I don't really know. I mean, you target everybody in the game. You know what I mean? They're all going to put up runs. They're all going to get hits. So you just target everybody from both teams.
Yeah, that's all I can say on this too. The one thing I do want to mention though is that this is a 4 o'clock game, 4 o'clock Eastern game, and I don't think either of their lineups are out yet. They probably won't be out until we get close to game time or game time is already passed. Luckily, there's no noon games today. With that being said, you got to be safe. You got to, especially if you're playing on a site that's not like DraftKings where you don't have the late swap option. You got to be pretty confident that guys are going to be in the lineup. It's a day game following a night game. So catchers, who knows who's going to be in the lineup? Darno wasn't in the lineup last night. It was Recker, who actually had a good night. He's a guy that I rostered in places. You have to be careful with who's going to be in these lineups today. This could be a day where, for some odd reason, Tulo gets the day off or something like that. It frightens me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not playing on DraftKings or somewhere, you've got to be careful with that today because Tulo has played. I don't know if he's set out at all this week, so this is a highly likely situation for him to set today.
Right. I want you guys to be able to play everybody in this game because I think everybody in this game is in play, especially with that 11 over under. That's absolutely unreal. The problem is picking the guys to play need to actually be playing. I love Morneau. I love Cargo. I love Blackman. If Dickerson's in the lineup, if Culberson finds his way in the lineup somehow, all those left-handed bats all become in play against G. And the same thing goes for all the Mets. I love Duda. I love Granderson, David Wright, Murphy. All those guys are in play. You just have to make sure they're playing today. Like that's the hardest part about this game today is making sure that the guys are actually going to be in the lineup for you to collect points from them. Otherwise, I think they're all fine plays. And that leads us to the last game of the night, which is an interesting game for us because I happen to be a Cubs fan. You're a Cardinals fan. The Cubs actually already wrapped up this series. 3 games in a row for the Cubbies. One against Wainwright, one against Waka. Can we take down Lance Lynn tonight? You're probably going to be rostering Lance Lynn, aren't you?
No, I'm not actually. I think it was probably Tuesday night. Chris actually rostered him in our 3-game series there, and I will never trust Lance Lynn really. I don't care what the numbers say. He has the potential to blow up, and the Cardinals are not scoring any runs right now to offer any support of the pitchers. I mean, you've probably watched it yesterday. Wainwright is absolutely owned by the Cubs. If he ever plays them, do not roster him against the Cubs. And yesterday, Walker was pretty awesome. And then it only took 1 home run by Junior Lake, and there goes the whole game. So he makes 1 mistake. And you would think, I'm sure you agree with me, you would think the Cardinals would be able to score 2 runs yesterday against the Cubs. And today, I actually like Jason Hamill on the mound has been pretty solid. And so as bad as I hate to say it, I actually see the Cubs sweeping the Cardinals this weekend. So I hope it goes the other way, but that's just my point of view with the way they're playing right now.
Oh man, it's nice to hear that. I hope the Cubs take home the sweep. I'm so excited about this Cubs team, and honestly, the Brewers have been so good. But if the Brewers weren't in our division, we really wouldn't be out of things quite yet. We're 6 games under 500, which kind of sucks. But we're a really young team. We've blown a bunch of saves, and I know we're not here to talk about the Cubs, even though I want to. But I can't really fault you for rostering Lance Lynn tonight. Should you decide to roster Lance Lynn, the Cubs really aren't. They're not a very good offense just yet, and they are very strikeout prone. And I don't remember us ever doing anything against Lance Lynn, really. The thing that, I'm not going to be using him because I'm a Cubs fan and I want to watch this game, Sunday Night Baseball. So that's not a good DFS reason to not roster somebody, but it's why I won't be rostering him. I just think, if you're thinking logically about it, Lance Lynn, he isn't as good on the road, and there's other options today. Those would be my reasons for not maybe rostering him if you guys are out there debating whether or not to roster him. I don't really think there's much else to target in this game. Matt Adams had 3 hits yesterday. I think that's a guy you can think about. Carpenter is solid. I don't really want to use Holiday or Craig against Jason Hamill. Jason Hamill's been good, dude. I hope this is a guy that the Cubs can flip at the deadline and get somebody really good for. That's what we did with Scott Feldman, and we picked up Arrieta, who was awesome yesterday. I love his stuff. I guess I'm ranting a little bit too much about the Cubs here, but there's not a whole lot in this game for me. The team totals have the Cardinals over/under at 4 and the Cubs at 3. So Vegas would suggest that Lance Lynn will be a pretty solid play against the Cubs today, and that some of these Cardinals bats are going to produce against Hamill. I think it's a closer game than people are going to expect, and I hope the Cubs come out on top. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, and we've got a question here in the chat. Thunder Rams ask, if Tulo sits, who else do we like at shortstop today? I think it depends on what site you're playing on. I think on FanDuel, Sean Rodriguez is actually in play at shortstop. Trying to think of anybody else. I actually have only made a FanDuel roster so far, and that is one of the guys that I have in my lineup there. But Jed Lowry, I think, is in play. Jose Reyes is 5 of 6 off of Volquez, so he could be in play for you as well. And just to kind of give a shout-out, that's one of the reasons I like Fantasy Aces so much. They combine the second base and shortstop position. The position flexibility is great, so you can actually play 2 second basemen and not have to roll out a shortstop if you don't want to. So that might be something if you don't play there to give it a try just for that simple reason. But those are the guys that I would look at shortstop. What about you?
Yeah, man, you mentioned if Tulo did sit today, that would devastate kind of all of us, wouldn't it? I mentioned a couple guys throughout here that I like. Sean Rodriguez, I think, is a solid option for especially value, hitting 5 against CC today. He hits lefties well. I mentioned Everth Cabrera as a guy to keep your eye on. I think Brad Miller is an extreme value guy to maybe keep your eye on. I'd like him more if he's at the top of the order still. That lineup, I don't know if it's out yet, the Mariners lineup. If he's near the top of the order,
he's not in the lineup.
Okay, never mind then. Brad Miller's not even in the lineup. Don't worry about him. I think Elvis Andrus is a guy to keep your eye on against Skaggs. It's so difficult if Tulo's not in the lineup because everybody you just want to roster Tulo. But I think there are some cheaper options to use today. I think if you're not rostering Tulo, you want to definitely find value. I wouldn't pay for Hanley Ramirez against Fernandez for sure. I wouldn't be doing that. I'm trying to think of some of these more expensive shortstop options that there would be. I mean, not really anybody outside of Hanley and Tulo, and then there's kind of a large gap in the pricing there. I think Andrus might be your next most expensive guy. He's a guy that I don't mind, but I think if you're not paying up for Tulo, if Tulo's not in the lineup, you kind of punt it a little bit. You use a guy like maybe Everett, or if Tulo's not in the lineup, it should be Charlie Culberson, I would think. That would be the guy that maybe I would use too. So keep an eye on who his replacement might be. That's just assuming that Tulo's not in the lineup. I think he'll probably be good to go, but who knows, man? I mean, why wouldn't you want him in there in the series finale, the rubber game? Is it a rubber game? Did the Mets even win last night? Who won that game?
I don't know. It's I think the final score was 43-38.
Yeah, it was something like that. I fell asleep, man. These games go so long. I know it just kept going back and forth, back and forth. It was 8-8, or it was 8-6, 8-8, and it was 9-8, 9-9. It was just crazy. You can't ever.
It was 6-0. The Mets actually jumped out 6-0, and then I think it was 8-6 Rockies, and then it was it was almost like a basketball game. They were trading buckets for a little bit.
Yeah, I saw the Arenado grand slam that gave. Arenado's awesome, dude. I love that guy. Have you seen the plays he's been making defensively?
Yes, and I own him in both yearly teams, and I actually had Machado on one too, and I have no idea what to do at third base now.
Yeah, man, he's so good. Actually, the Rockies ended up winning 11-10. Charlie Culberson, the guy that might be slotted in there if Tulo shouldn't go today, actually hit a home run last night. Was that a walk-off two-run homer?
Probably so.
Let me pull up this play-by-play. We have a couple minutes here. We're not in any rush, really. Let me pull up this play-by-play to see the last play of the game. Charlie Culberson hit a two-run walk-off homer last night. How about that?
I mean, anybody's in play in that lineup. I mean, even Chris K could hit a home run at Coors Field.
Yeah, let's not stretch things, Bill. We might have just lost audience members saying something like that. Anyway, guys, that takes care of all the games. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us here in these last couple minutes. If not, we'll head out. I'm going to hopefully get to this Buccos game, even though the clouds are kind of covering. We should do a real quick weather check here. When I looked this morning, I didn't see anything. I'm just going to check.
I've got it pulled up, actually. I see a... Let me refresh just to make sure. The only game... Let's see, we got...
Okay, some winds moving in at Philly, or some rains moving in Philly
yeah.
And in Boston. Potential. That's near the end of that game. Near the end of both games.
I think everybody's safe. Maybe not... I even think Gio's safe. I think they get that game in.
Yeah, they'll probably get it in. It doesn't look like the percentage chances are too high. I wanted to check because it did look like the clouds are covering the sun here. Hopefully that's something real quick. It's awesome. I can just look right out my window to give you guys some heads up on the Pittsburgh weather. But anyway, that's all we've got for today. Tonight, it will be Bell, Chris K, and I.
No,
it's not here.
Bill.
It'll be Chris K and I. It'll be Chris K and I tonight, 8:30 to talk about Monday baseball. We will see you guys then. Take care, guys.